The smuggler's freighter, the Minox Ghost, rattled out of hyperspace too close to Mustafar's gravity well. Alarms screamed. On the bridge, Captain Raeltros fought the controls, his knuckles white. "We're too heavy. Jettison the cargo." His first mate, a Twi'lek named Vec, didn't move. His eyes were fixed on the rear scanner. "The cargo. It's moving, Captain. In the hold." The shipping container marked Biological Specimens, property of Weyland-Yutani Corp., had ruptured, not from the turbulence, from the inside. Something black and glistening had punched through the reinforced plasteel. Acid blood hissed, eating through the deck plates. The last thing Tross saw before the freighter plunged into Mustafar's crimson atmosphere was the scanner signature, dozens of small, fast life forms swarming through his ship. The Minox Ghost didn't crash. It was eaten alive. As it tore through the toxic clouds, trailing fire, black shapes detached from the disintegrating hull, using chunks of debris as heat shields, riding the wreckage down to the planet's surface. They landed in the ashen wastes, 50 kilometers from the nearest Imperial mining outpost. The few that survived the impact emerged from the smoldering wreckage. They scuttled into the volcanic caves, into the network of tunnels carved by millennia of lava flows. Their instincts, older than this galaxy, recognized something here: geothermal energy, mineral-rich rock, and the scent of life carried on the scorching winds. They began to build. 2 standard weeks later, an Imperial survey droid hovering over the southern fissure registered an anomalous energy signature, not geothermal, organic. A massive, concentrated biomass emitting strange pheromones and unusual thermal patterns. The data was flagged and routed to the desk of Director Tarin, overseer of Mustafar's mineral extraction operations. Tarin watched the hologram in his pressurized office within Outpost K7. The scan showed a cavern system, now webbed with a strange, resin-like biostructure. Heat signatures moved within, dozens of them, clustering around a single, much larger heat bloom. "Some kind of indigenous colony," he mused to his deputy. "Mustafarians are solitary. They don't build hives. The life signs are off the charts, Director. Metabolism is frenetic, and they're spreading. They've consumed 3 of our automated mining probes, just dissolved them with some kind of corrosive fluid." Tarin's eyes gleamed with ambition, not caution. "A new species. A potent biological weapon. The Emperor rewards initiative. Dispatch a containment team from the garrison. Capture specimens. I want them alive." The deputy hesitated. "Sir, Lord Vader's fortress is on the other side of the planet. Protocol states we notify the regional commander of any." "Lord Vader is preoccupied with the rebellion," Tarin snapped. "This is a scientific opportunity. Send the team." Here the containment team, 12 Stormtroopers of the Mustafar garrison and 2 Imperial zoologists in environment suits, entered the cave system at dusk. Their glow rods cut through the perpetual gloom, reflecting off strange wet walls. "This isn't rock," zoologist Hask said, scraping a sample of the glossy, dark resin. "It's organic, a secretion like a wasp's nest, but far more complex." Trooper leader RC-9972 gestured forward. Movement ahead. Single life form. The glow rods converged on a figure. It was humanoid, encased up to its chest in the resin, fused to the wall. Its head lolled. It wore tattered smuggler's clothes. "Survivor from the crash," Hask said, moving to examine him. "Amazing he's still." The figure's head snapped up. Its eyes were vacant, mouth slack. A terrible, guttural choking sound erupted from its throat. Its chest bulged, straining against the resin. "Get back!" RC-9972 shouted. It was too late. The victim's chest exploded outward in a spray of blood and viscera. A creature, pale and serpentine, limbs clawed, tail whipping, launched itself from the ruin of the chest straight at Hask's faceplate. It was met by a hail of blaster fire. Bolts tore into it. It screamed, a sound like rending metal, and its blood sprayed. Where the yellow fluid hit the Stormtrooper's white armor, it began to smoke and dissolve. A trooper screamed as acid ate through his chest plate to the flesh beneath. "Acid! Blood! Fall back!" RC-9972 yelled, but the walls came alive. Black, Sleek shapes detached from the shadows above, dropping silently. They moved with terrifying speed, a blur of claws, tails, and domed, elongated heads. Blaster fire lit up the cavern. Muzzle flashes illuminated nightmares. A trooper dragged screaming into a ceiling vent. A zoologist impaled on a barbed tail. Acid eating through a helmet. RC-9972 made it back to the cave mouth. His armor pitted and smoking. He was the only one. He turned for a final look. In the depths, reflected in a pool of lava, he saw the source of the huge heat signature, a monstrous queen, twice the size of the others, anchored to a colossal egg sac, her armored head swaying in the hot, foul air. He stumbled into the open ash and triggered his emergency beacon before something black and silent dragged him back into the dark. The beacon's distress signal reached Outpost K7, and also, inevitably, the isolated fortress that loomed over the sea of lava. Darth Vader felt the disturbance, not through the Force. These creatures were like the Terminator, voids, instinct-driven animals with no presence in the cosmic energy field. He felt it through the sudden, sharp silence of the outpost's comm traffic. Then, the panic. His shuttle descended upon Outpost K7 to find it in lockdown. Director Taryn, pale and sweating, met him in the command center. "My lord, a tragic accident. A local predator." Vader's hand rose. Taryn choked, lifted off the floor. "Do not lie to me. The survey data. Now." The director spilled everything. The freighter crash, the Hive, the lost team. Vader watched the spliced-together helmet cam footage from RC-9972. The chestburster, the acid, the shadows moving faster than eyes could track. The Queen. He dropped Taryn. "You have unleashed a plague, one that even now spreads through the tunnels beneath us." On the thermal scan, the Hive's tendrils had grown. They were within a kilometer of the outpost's foundation shafts. "The structure is vulnerable to intense heat, my lord," a surviving engineer blurted. "Their resin melts at extreme temperatures, but our flamethrowers are limited." Vader turned his mask toward the main viewing port, toward the fiery hellscape of his adopted world. "Then we shall use Mustafar itself." The plan was a work of brutal geometric logic. Vader would not send men into the Hive. He would flood it with the planet's fury. He took a single squad of his personal 501st Legion veterans, men who had fought Jedi and rebels, and equipped them with the outpost's mining charges. Their mission: enter the older, stable lava tubes above the Hive network, plant seismic charges at precise weak points in the rock, and trigger a controlled collapse that would open a direct channel from a nearby lava river into the heart of the Hive. It was a sound plan. It did not account for the Xenomorphs' understanding of their territory. The 501st moved in silence through a tube glittering with mineral deposits. Sergeant Creel led, his blaster rifle sweeping the darkness. They reached the first calculated weak point, a wall of brittle volcanic rock. "Charges here. Set for remote." A drop of saliva hit his shoulder plate. It sizzled. He looked up. The ceiling was not rock. It was a lattice of resin, and clinging to it, perfectly still and invisible until that moment, were dozens of the creatures, their heads tilted in unison. "Contact! Above!" The cavern erupted into chaos. Xenomorphs dropped like living rain. Blaster fire filled the air. A trooper screamed as a tail spiked through his abdomen. Acid splashed, eating through armor and flesh. The creatures used the terrain perfectly, flowing over walls, emerging from side tunnels that weren't on the seismic maps. "Fall back to the entrance," Creel yelled, planting a charge blindly and setting it to a short timer. They fought a running retreat, a desperate, bloody affair. At the tunnel entrance, Creel turned, counting. 4 of 12 made it. He saw the creatures, unwilling to venture into the direct daylight, hissing from the shadows. He triggered the charges. A deep thump echoed through the ground. Then a roar. The plan had worked, but from the wrong direction. The charges, placed in panic, had weakened the floor of the Xenomorph's own tunnel, not the ceiling. A vast section of the rock beneath the 501st's position collapsed, plunging them and several pursuing Xenomorphs into the Hive's main chamber below. Creel landed hard, his leg snapping. His glow rod, miraculously intact, rolled away, casting its beam across a hellish panorama. He was in the cathedral. The resin here was thick, pillars of it reaching to a high ceiling. The air was hot and stank of ammonia and decay, and all around him, encased in the walls like grotesque artwork, were the victims, smugglers, stormtroopers, Mustafarians, all in various stages of being hosts for the eggs he could see pulsing in nearby sacks. At the chamber's heart, the Queen shifted, her immense size becoming apparent. She turned her armored head toward the light. A deep, resonant chitter echoed through the hive. From every tunnel, every crevice, xenomorphs poured into the chamber. They did not attack immediately. They surrounded the fallen troopers, hissing, clicking, a living, deadly audience. Creel watched as a trooper tried to crawl away. A xenomorph, larger, with a crest on its head, stepped forward. It didn't kill him. It grabbed him with clawed hands, its inner jaw retracted. It studied the struggling man, then dragged him toward a vacant patch of resin. The message was clear. You are not prey. You are resource. Creel fumbled for his last thermal detonator. He would deny them that. A shadow fell over him. Not a xenomorph. Broader, towering. A familiar mechanical rasp filled the chamber. Vader stood at the newly created hole in the ceiling, having followed the collapse. He looked down upon the hive, upon his doomed men, upon the Queen. His lightsaber ignited, casting a bloody glow on the chitinous horrors around him. The xenomorphs reacted to this new threat. They charged, a tidal wave of black death. Vader did not move from his perch. He raised his hand. The force exploded outward, not as a push, but as a crushing wave of pure telekinetic fury. The first wave of xenomorphs hit an invisible wall and was pulverized, their bodies bursting, filling the air with a corrosive mist. He held the mist at bay with a shield of force energy. The Queen shrieked in rage. She detached from her egg sac with a sound of tearing flesh, a monument of biological fury rising to her full, terrifying height. Vader leapt down, landing between the Queen and his trapped men. "Leave!" he commanded Creel. "Now!" The surviving troopers scrambled toward the hole. The xenomorphs moved to intercept. Vader's lightsaber became a cyclone of red energy. He moved with Sith-enhanced speed, but the creatures adapted. They began to feint, to work in concert. One would draw his blade, while another spat a glob of acid from the shadows. Vader deflected it into a third. Their acid blood was a constant peril. Each one he killed became a splash hazard. He was driving them back, a one-man army against a swarm, when the Queen struck. Her massive tail, tipped with a blade-like barb, shot forward faster than anything her size should move. Vader twisted. The tail missed his body but sheared clean through his shoulder armor cabling. Sparks flew. His right arm went dead, the lightsaber within it deactivating and clattering to the ground. The xenomorph swarm sensed weakness and surged. Vader, down to one functioning arm, reached out with the Force, not at the creatures, but at Mustafar itself. He focused on the distant, thunderous flow of the lava river he had meant to channel. He gripped its pressure, its path, with his mind, and he pulled. In the tunnels above, rock groaned, then shattered. A wall of the lava tube exploded inward, and a river of molten rock, over 2,000 degrees, roared into the hive network. It was a directed flash flood of incineration. The xenomorphs sensed the cataclysm. They shrieked, scrambling over each other. The resin walls began to blister, melt, and burn. The Queen turned from Vader, trying to shield her egg sac with her own body. Vader used the distraction. With his remaining hand, he called his fallen lightsaber to his grip, reactivated it, and plunged it into the base of the Queen's towering tail, severing it. She roared, whirling, but the lava was already there. It poured into the chamber like a blazing tide. Xenomorphs were consumed in instants. The resin superstructure melted and collapsed. Vader leapt upward, using the Force to propel himself back through the hole, landing as the chamber below became a crematorium. The last thing he saw was the Queen, engulfed in orange-gold flame, her shriek cut short. On the surface, the ground trembled for an hour as the lava filled the hive network. Outpost K7 monitored the sterilization. Director Tarin dared to approach Vader, who stood watching the fiery convulsions of the planet. "A brilliant victory, my lord," You've eradicated the threat. Vader looked at him. I have contained this infestation. The freighter originated elsewhere. Its logs will be traced. There will be other hives, on other worlds. He turned his mask toward the stars. The Emperor will be informed. A biological weapon of this potency, it must be controlled, or it will control the galaxy. In the smoldering ruins below, almost everything had been vaporized. Almost. In a side tunnel sealed by a cave-in just before the lava hit, a single leathery egg, hidden away from the main sack, pulsed gently in the heat. A faint tremor ran through its surface. A crack began to form. The hive is ash. The queen is molten slag. But in the smoldering ruins of Mustafar, a single egg trembles. The Empire now knows this terror exists, and the Emperor always seeks new weapons. Subscribe to Infinite Galaxy Multiverse now. Ring the bell. Because the next transmission from Weyland-Yutani is already reaching Imperial High Command, and the hunt for the perfect biological weapon is about to go galactic. You will not want to miss the coming infestation.